Hello and welcome to the Mama Rose Show with your host, Mama Rose. We are very excited to be here today because we're going in depth into the Brooklyn Film Festival, which has gone virtual and offering programming just for you for free. All that you've got to do is go to www.brooklynfilmfestival.org and register yourself to view all of these fabulous films. And we have an opportunity here interviewing and speaking with some of the filmmakers and seeing some of the trailers for your opportunity and viewing pleasure. And don't forget to follow us at www.stephen, Stephen, S as in Sam, Miller.com on social media and all over the place, and make sure to subscribe to our channel. But for now, we're going to go speak to some fabulous people, so stay tuned. I am here with the director and star of the documentary feature, Uncivilized, Michael Lees. Michael, how are you?
How are you doing, Stephen?
Oh, wonderful. Could you please give our viewers a brief description of what the film is about?
Yeah, not a problem. Basically, I went to go and live in the forest, kind of with this idea that maybe we'd left behind some of the things that were the most important to life and could have set us up in a way to live in tune with the world. And halfway through, Hurricane Maria came and changed everything.
What was the inspiration behind the film?
I think part of it is the climate crisis that's going on currently. And just kind of having this idea that maybe the whole model of how we're living is completely unsustainable, and to see for myself if I could be happy with less. Because essentially I went in with almost nothing, just my camera equipment, some survival gear, some books, and living straight off of the land. So that was, I'd say, the main inspiration.
No, it's amazing to think and to view this film with how little you went in with, but how much you accomplished in the time that you were there. Are you excited to have the film shown around the world for the Brooklyn Film Festival, and what does this mean to you?
Yes, absolutely. Such a great opportunity. It's amazing. As with any creator, you go through immense periods of self-doubt. I'm editing this thing after Maria, my computer was gone. I'm editing this thing on my dad's laptop at my parents' home, being like, you know what, have I just wasted the last couple of years? What am I doing? But it's all come together really well. Great response, and it's really amazing to be able to get this story out to the world, because this is essentially a first-hand account of not only living through disaster, but also disaster that may very well be induced by man's actions and climate change. And these are the sorts of disasters that are going to continue in intensity and frequency. So this is a first-hand experience, rather than, it's very different when you read about something on the news versus, I think, having something like this where you feel like you're in the story.
Now, with the aspect of climate change and going in with so little and having so little, what was the experience like to be out in nature for an extended period of time, and specifically being in the heart of Hurricane Maria?
Being out in nature, I thought I was gonna, at some point get really bored or start going crazy. Not at all. And it's so different being isolated in your home with four walls around versus when you're out in nature, because everywhere you look, there's something going on. There's processes and animals and plants, there's so much going on. And so all of a sudden you realize how plugged in you are to this whole living matrix. In terms of Hurricane Maria, that I would say is quite a psychedelic experience. It got to the point where I did think I wasn't going to make it. And oddly enough, in that moment, you kind of get a flash. You do get this flash, or I got this flash, of just all the kind of great moments and people that I'd encountered over my life. and just almost a chance to mentally say thank you for all of that.
We thank you for, surviving such an experience. And then in the film, you come home to such devastation. And I have to ask, is everyone doing better now that we have, it's been a little while since this happened, but is everyone doing a little bit better than they were at that time?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think to an untrained eye, you would be excused for not knowing that a hurricane passed through. I think the reconstruction efforts and the government's efforts have actually been tremendous. Of course, if you with a trained eye, you can still see some parts of the forest that are dead and the trees aren't going to come back. And there's still people who have had to leave the island and can't come back. And now we're sort of just as we're getting on our feet completely, we're hit with Corona, which is a very similar and yet very different situation. Maria was this immediate impact, and Corona is this slow trickle where a lot of people rely on tourism, and we can't open our borders, and no one knows how long this is going to last. But amazingly, we are pretty much almost COVID-free right now, so that's amazing.
It is amazing, and I'm so glad to hear that, and that everybody's doing better and surviving through yet another crisis in the world. But I want to thank you so much for joining us here at the Mama Rose Show, and we want to thank all the viewers of the show, and a very special thanks to you, the director star of Uncivilized, Michael Lees, for making it through such an impactful time, and for being able to show our viewers at the Brooklyn Film Festival and all over the world. But definitely stay tuned for a trailer of the film, and we thank you so much, Michael.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
I'm finally heading home to live in the forests of my Caribbean homeland for 6 months, with nothing more than a few tools, some religious texts, and a camera. It's hard to pin down exactly what I'm looking for. It's something I know I haven't been able to find in the modern world. I don't want to speak too soon, but I feel like I have just about everything I could possibly need out here. A friend from the area came out this morning to warn me that there's a Category 3 hurricane directly on its way. Gathering some palm leaves and stuff and try and weatherproof this thing as much as possible. Oh man. Oh my god.
I am here and happy to introduce the director and star of the feature film Erotic Fire of the Unattainable, Franke, Vitale and Gay Walley. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
Now, Franke, can you please give us a brief description of the film?
The film is, it's a romance, it's a comedy, and it's also pretty serious. There's a writer whose name is Gay Walley, whose name you might recognize, and she is interested in love, but sometimes she's ambivalent about it. And so we follow her through 3 relationships, and while she is spending time with these 3 gentlemen, she's also writing a novel, and she sources some of her ideas from her relationships. How about Gay? Does that sound close?
Very good. Yeah, that sounds. It's the same movie. Yeah.
It sounds amazing, and I can't wait for our viewers to see it. I have seen it. It's very, very well done, and I'm just excited.
Yeah.
So, Franke and Gay, what was the inspiration behind the film for both of you?
I make docufiction films, which start differently than ordinary films. With ordinary films, you have a script, and then you get some money. And once you start pre-production, which means you start hiring people, the film is moving forward. But the director and the producer and the financier, people who are putting money in, and the talent know what the film is going to be about before they start. But this started differently. My docufiction films are based on a person. So I have to find somebody who's willing and who's to be in a film like this that really explores their life, and who has an interesting life to explore. And I knock on their door and I say, can we make a movie together? And Gay, when I knocked on her door, she was sitting on the couch and she pulled her legs underneath herself and said, yeah. And that's the way it began from my point of view. But at that point, I had no idea what the film was going to be about.
So Frank said, so I said, well, I'm not an actress. He said, well, it doesn't matter. You're playing someone like yourself. I said, okay. And then he said, what are you writing now? And at the time I was writing a story about 3 ways of looking at love, where someone loves somebody more than they love her, where somebody loves them more than her, she loves them. And the third, I wasn't quite clear about. And he said, let's shoot it. And so we did. So that's how, and I thought it'd be very interesting. I thought it'd be like writing on the screen, kind of like making it happen. Rather than doing this all the time, I would actually be creating it up there. So it was fun.
So to some degree, the film made itself in the sense that everybody was working together. Nobody really had total control. We just all worked together. And that's what I think helps make the film interesting. With docufiction, people are playing themselves in situations that are close to their real life situations. They're dramatizing it, but it's still quite real. And so it feels very fresh and very real. It doesn't feel like a normally constructed film. And don't get me wrong, I love constructed films, but I don't make them. I make this kind, and it has a lot of advantages.
Are you excited to have the film shown around the world for the Brooklyn Film Festival, and what does that mean for you?
Well, I'm very excited, and my daughter has an apartment in Brooklyn, and so Brooklyn is like the center of the independent film universe, and I feel very excited about being involved with that. Makes me feel like I'm a young filmmaker again. But also getting a film out there, getting it distributed, being the festivals are the gatekeepers, and if you are approved by the festivals, then distributors will be more interested in your film. So that's really key. How about you, Gay?
I think it's great. I mean, it's so funny in this world now where we can't really see how people respond or things like that. It's going to be a different experience than if it was brick and mortar. But yeah, it's wonderful, wonderful. And it's curious to see how people respond. What do they like it? Things like that.
Well, I'm very excited for the film, and as I had mentioned, I have seen the film, and I can't wait for the public to see the film because it's a different type of film. There's something about it that really grabbed me and took me with, the different storylines and everything that goes on. And Gay, I want to ask you, I know that you had touched on this, but what was it like to play the role?
I found that I like that question because it has some insight to it. I'm a writer, so I'm always behind the screen. So it was a little hard to, and I know the camera doesn't lie, and I'm not even speaking about what you look like, but just you think you're telling one story, but actually it's going to look like something else in a funny way. So it was it was a little hard for me to be in front of the camera like that. And, but I thought it would be a very, what's the word I want? A very expanding experience, it would be interesting to see, and it would push me into new places. So it was, and then I had a lot of fun. The majority of people that are in the film are friends of mine. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of fun for all of us to play, so.
Well, I know that Gay might not be the person to say this, but it was so great to have really smart, witty people to work with, so that we could shoot, or I could shoot a scene, having dinner, and just give a tiny bit of direction. Let's talk about this. And everything they said was interesting. And in the editing process, my choice wasn't to take one or take two, but was to take, is it this topic or that topic? they were really very, I don't know, smart, witty, sensitive people.
And Gay, you're a writer. Did you ever complete the book that you were talking about? Is it available? And is it what the movie is based off of?
You mean the title? Well, the book that I was writing that I put into the film, I didn't complete it. It seemed a little bit, I got too involved in the film. I sort of started pulling out scenes and making it work with the film. So I didn't feel a need to complete that book. But I know what you're thinking. You're thinking about the title, The Erotic Fire, The Unattainable, being a book that's out there. That's a kind of telling story. This film is not based on that book. But Frank liked the title, and it shows that writers are always writing the same thing because the title fit the movie. So whatever themes were in that book, themes are in this, you know. So and Frank took a risk with the title too, you know, so because it's an unusual title.
It is an unusual title, and Frank, you know, just taking the title, I've not, unfortunately, have not had a chance to read the book. It is on my list. Don't worry. But what, you know, what angles did you take from that, you know, that book, or, you know, the book that Gay was writing?
This was about Gay. I think both that book, this film, and the future book are all about Gay. I was told by someone, well, Gay writes autobiographical fiction. So when I went to her, I thought, oh, well, she's really comfortable doing autobiographical material. And she says, well, not exactly. I kind of hide behind my fiction. But the truth is that maybe she does hide behind it, but it's also always about what she's feeling and what she's thinking. And I love that. I love people dramatizing and bringing out their stories, but in a fictional context. Somehow I feel that's more real than a documentary context. So I think Gay, probably like myself and maybe like you, are people who look into themselves a lot and wonder why we do things and why we feel things and what we're feeling.
In your own words, why is this film so important to see?
It's important to see people who see it. It helps them think about their own relationships, because the relationships in the film are very complicated. They're intriguing, but they're complicated, like life. And so I think a couple of reasons. One of them is that it can help them think out some of the issues in their own relationships. And also it can give them a window on other people's lives, which I think, again, is probably the same thing. It gives them perspective on their own.
Why I think, well, there's a lot of reasons. I think one of the things is the way the film is made, and that there's a poetic quality to it without being, I mean, it's fun, but there's sort of the way it's shot and the way that she's telling the story, that you hear the meta story as you go through the film. And I think that is nice to see that back, because so many films are kind of so neat, you know, boy meets girl, they get together, it's sort of, you know, or whatever. And this is a little messier, a little bit more emotional, a little bit more true, I think, to what people feel. And the other thing I think that's interesting is that I think it shows that no matter what age you are, we all have the same problems in love, the same challenges, the same needs, the same, you know, the same desires, the same wanting to be wanted, you know, and I think there's something embracing about that.
I want to thank you so much for being here today, and I don't want it to come to an end because I want to learn so much more about everything that you're doing. But we want our viewers to continue to watch and see the film, and we will have a trailer from the film, and we're just so excited. But we thank you so very much for taking time out of your day to join us here at the Mama Rose Show.
Yes,
Well, thank you for having us. You're a great interviewer because one, you listen, which is pretty cool, and you seem to do your homework and you seem to be interested. So that I think really adds up to being a really a great interviewer.
Yep. Thank you so much. Okay.
Well, until next time, make sure the Brooklyn Film Festival is coming up at the end of the month. It's free of charge. You know, there's fabulous films, but this one is #1 in my book. So Erotic Fire of the Unattainable, and we look forward to it. So we thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You look fabulous. I love you.
But
There's nothing like a fast-moving feline.
I was there, I saw the way you're like light up 10,000 volts to be with her.
Well, he doesn't want intimacy. So you have to ask, do I?
I want to come to Gloucester. I just feel like being with somebody close.
I don't know if I can trust you.
Because?
You've roughhoused me before.
Oh. So I was thinking about your girlfriend situation.
Yeah?
Well, what's she like?
Why do you want to know? It's great to have you in my arms again.
I know, it's been a long time.
I have trouble, as you say, diving into murky waters.
What's the title of one of your books?
The Erotic Fire of the Unattainable.
That's enough for me. I want to buy that book.
I know this is déclassé, but is there a Mrs. Jennings?
Don't expect me to go for a second inning here.
50!
I'm done.
Sounds like something would be better in a book.
One man is married and turns out to be a bore. Another hides a girlfriend. Another has meals with his help, not her. Hasn't she ever heard of being with someone available?